The mysterious find. Lucas wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped into the massive junkyard. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over piles of scrap metal and broken machines. This place was his treasure trove, an endless sea of forgotten tech, waiting to be salvaged. Today, he had his eyes on something special. An old spaceship, rusted and covered in dust, had been sitting in the yard for years. No one wanted it. Too broken, too old. But Lucas, he saw potential. "Old girl," he muttered, running a hand along the ship's dented hull. "Let's see if you still got some life left in you." The junkyard owner had sold it to him for cheap. "That thing's a waste of space," the man had grumbled. "No engine, no weapons, just a hollow shell. But if you want it, take it." Lucas climbed into the cockpit, his boots kicking up dust. The inside smelled like rust and something strange. A faint metallic scent, almost like burnt wires. He ignored it and started looking around. The control panel was dead, wires exposed, screens cracked. The seats were torn, stuffing spilling out. It was in bad shape, but Lucas had fixed worse. Then something caught his eye. At the back of the ship, hidden behind fallen debris, was a strange metal door. It looked newer than the rest of the ship, like it didn't belong. "What's this?" he muttered, stepping closer. He pressed his hand against the cold metal. Unlike the rusted surroundings, this door was smooth and untouched. He tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Lucas wasn't the kind of guy to give up easily. He grabbed his toolkit and pried open the control panel next to the door. The wiring was different. Advanced, alien tech. He had seen alien designs before, but nothing like this. Curiosity burned inside him. He rewired a few connections, bypassing the security lock. The door hissed, releasing a puff of cold air as it slid open. Inside was a small chamber, dimly lit by faint blue lights. And in the center of the room was a pod. Lucas froze. The pod was sleek, silver, and covered in glowing symbols. A thin layer of frost covered the glass surface. His heart pounded as he stepped closer. Inside the pod was a girl. She had pale blue skin, long silver hair floating around her face, and delicate, pointed ears. She wasn't human. Lucas's breath caught in his throat. What the hell? She looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. But her chest barely moved. Was she even alive? He reached out, wiping away the frost from the glass. The moment his fingers touched the surface, the pod beeped. A warning light flashed red. Then the ship groaned. Lucas turned as the metal walls trembled. The old structure, weak and forgotten, was collapsing. Sparks flew from broken wires, and a deep rumble filled the air. The pod's glass cracked. The girl's eyes fluttered open. She gasped, her glowing blue eyes locking onto Lucas. No time for introductions, he shouted, grabbing the pod's release handle. He pulled with all his strength. The hatch popped open, and the girl tumbled into his arms, weak and shivering. The ship let out a final, terrible groan. The walls crumbled. The ceiling started to fall. Lucas didn't think, he acted. Scooping the alien girl into his arms, he ran. The exit was far, too far. Dust and debris rained down, choking the air. The floor cracked beneath his feet. Then, boom. The ship exploded behind him, flames shooting into the sky. The force sent him flying. Lucas hit the ground hard, rolling to protect the girl in his arms. The heat scorched his back, but he ignored it. For a moment, everything was silent. Just the crackling fire and the distant sound of metal collapsing. Lucas groaned, pushing himself up. His body ached, but he was alive. He looked down at the girl in his arms. She was breathing. Her eyes fluttered open again, staring at him with an unreadable expression. Then, in a voice that sent chills down his spine, she whispered in a strange, trembling accent, "Run." Lucas felt his blood turn cold. From the burning wreckage of the ship, something was moving. Shadows stretched across the ground. He wasn't alone. And whatever was coming wasn't friendly. The alien girl's secret. Lucas sat on the cold floor of his workshop, staring at the strange girl lying unconscious on his workbench. His heart was still racing from the explosion. His ears were ringing. His arms ached from carrying her out of the wreckage. Outside, the junkyard smoldered, the remains of the ship scattered across the metal graveyard. He knew people would come asking questions soon. The explosion wasn't exactly subtle. But right now, all his focus was on her. She was breathing, but barely. Her silver-white hair fanned across the bench, and her blue skin shimmered faintly under the workshop's flickering lights. Lucas had seen aliens before. Earth had been part of the galactic trade routes for decades, but he had never seen this species before. And then there was the way she had spoken before passing out. One word. Run. What did she mean? Who was she running from? Lucas rubbed his temples. What the hell have I gotten myself into? He stood up and paced around the workshop. He needed answers. He had risked his life pulling her out of that burning ship, and now his gut told him trouble was coming. Suddenly, the girl stirred. Lucas stopped mid-step, watching as her eyelids fluttered. Her breathing quickened. Then, with a sharp gasp, her eyes snapped open. Glowing blue, almost electric. She bolted upright, arms flailing, knocking tools off the bench. Hey, easy. Lucas backed up, hands raised. The girl's breathing was ragged. Her eyes darted around the room, taking in her surroundings. Then she locked onto him. For a second, they just stared at each other. Then she lunged. Lucas barely had time to react before she grabbed his wrist, squeezing hard. What the? He winced at her grip. It was strong, way stronger than she looked. Her lips moved, but the words came out garbled, a language he didn't understand. Lucas shook his head. I don't know what you're saying. She frowned, her glowing eyes narrowing. Then something shifted. Her grip loosened, and her expression changed. Her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something. And then, in perfect, if hesitant, English, she spoke. Where am I? Lucas blinked. He had not been expecting that. You're in my workshop, he answered cautiously. On Earth. The girl flinched at the word Earth. Her eyes flickered with confusion, then realization. I shouldn't be here, she whispered, more to herself than to him. Lucas crossed his arms. Yeah. Well, I wasn't planning on rescuing an alien girl from a spaceship either, so I guess we're both having a weird day. She looked at him again, this time studying him carefully. You saved me. Lucas exhaled. Yeah, the ship was about to blow. You were inside. What was I supposed to do? Leave you there? Something flashed in her expression, an emotion he couldn't quite place. I should not be alive. The way she said it sent a chill through Lucas's spine. He frowned. Why? Who are you? The girl hesitated. Her fingers curled against the workbench. I don't know. Lucas raised an eyebrow. You don't know? She shook her head, pressing her fingers to her temples. I can't remember. Lucas didn't believe that for a second. Something in the way she avoided his gaze told him she did remember something. She just didn't want to say it. Fine, he'd wait. For now, she looked exhausted, barely able to sit upright. Lucas sighed. Look, whatever's going on, you need rest. You can stay here until we figure this out. The girl hesitated again, then nodded slowly. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out instantly. Lucas caught her before she hit the ground. Whoa, easy. She tensed in his arms, but she was too weak to push him away. For a moment, Lucas felt just how light she was. Too light, like she barely had any weight at all. It wasn't normal. Something about her biology was different. What's your name? He asked, steadying her. She blinked. For a second, it seemed like she didn't know. Then, finally, she whispered, Luna. Lucas smirked. Luna, ha. Kinda fitting. She gave him a confused look. "You know," he said, silver hair, glowing eyes. "You look like the moon." Luna stared at him for a long moment, then, surprisingly, she smiled. It was small, almost hesitant, but it was there. Lucas found himself chuckling. "Well, at least you're not trying to kill me anymore." Luna's smile faded. "No, I do not wish to harm you." But then, her expression darkened. "But they will." Lucas tensed. "Who?" Luna swallowed. Her hands clenched at her sides. "The ones who made me." Silence stretched between them. Then she whispered, "They will come for me. And now, for you too." Lucas felt his stomach drop. And just as she said those words, his workshop's security alarm blared. Something, or someone, was outside, coming for them. The hunters arrive. The blaring alarm cut through the silence like a knife. Lucas felt his body tense as red warning lights flashed across the workshop. His security system, basic but reliable, had detected movement just beyond the junkyard's perimeter. Someone was here. He glanced at Luna. The moment the alarm sounded, her entire body stiffened, her breathing quickened, and her glowing blue eyes flickered with something between fear and recognition. "They're here," she whispered. Lucas grabbed a nearby wrench. Not exactly a weapon, but it made him feel less exposed. "Who's they?" Luna didn't answer. Instead, she staggered to her feet, still weak, but her posture had changed. She wasn't just a scared girl anymore. Her body was tense, ready, like she'd been trained for this moment. A shiver ran down Lucas's spine. He turned toward his security monitor, which showed a grainy black and white feed of the junkyard. Shadows moved between the piles of scrap metal. There were at least 3 figures, tall and humanoid, dressed in sleek armor that reflected the moonlight. They weren't human. Lucas cursed under his breath. "Great, just great." Luna grabbed his arm. "We have to hide." Lucas wasn't so sure about that. This was his junkyard, his home. He wasn't about to let some alien hit squad march in and do whatever they wanted. But before he could argue, a deep, distorted voice echoed through the night. "We know you're in there. Give us the girl." Luna squeezed his arm, her fingers ice cold. "Please," she whispered. "You don't understand. If they take me, you won't be spared." Lucas clenched his jaw. He was no soldier. He was a mechanic, a scavenger. But he knew one thing. He wasn't about to hand over someone who clearly didn't want to go. And he definitely wasn't going to let a bunch of heavily armed aliens push him around. He grabbed Luna's wrist and pulled her toward the back exit. "Come on." She followed, her steps shaky but determined. They slipped out through the back of the workshop and into the maze of scrap metal. The air was cool, the scent of oil and rust thick around them. Lucas knew this place like the back of his hand. If they could just stay quiet. A metallic click echoed behind them. Lucas turned just in time to see one of the armored figures standing atop a pile of junk, aiming a weapon directly at them. He barely had time to react before the air hummed with energy. Luna moved first. Faster than Lucas thought possible, she shoved him to the ground just as a crackling blue bolt of energy shot past his head, striking a rusted-out vehicle behind them. The car exploded in a burst of fire and metal. Lucas coughed, rolling onto his back. "Okay, that's cheating." Luna grabbed his hand, yanking him up. "Run." They bolted through the maze of metal, weaving through gaps and tunnels formed by piled-up wreckage. Lucas's heart pounded. The armored figures were fast, their footsteps crunching over debris as they closed in. Another blast of energy sizzled past his ear. He cursed. Then, without warning, Luna skidded to a stop. Lucas almost ran into her. "Why are we stopping?" She turned, her glowing blue eyes sharp. "Do you trust me?" Lucas blinked. What kind of question is that right now? "Trust me." Lucas hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, sure. What's the plan?" Luna didn't answer. Instead, she raised her hands. A strange hum filled the air. Lucas watched, wide-eyed, as the junk around them started to shift. Metal scraps lifted into the air as if pulled by invisible strings. Old car doors, broken pipes, shattered machines, all of it vibrated with unnatural energy. Then, with a sharp snap, the wreckage moved. Walls of metal slammed together behind them, sealing off the path they had just run through. The ground trembled as entire stacks of junk rearranged themselves, forming barriers, creating obstacles. Lucas's jaw dropped. Okay, that's new. Luna swayed, breathing heavily. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Whatever she had just done, it had drained her. She grabbed Lucas's sleeve. We have a few seconds. Move. They ran again, ducking under pipes and squeezing through tight spaces. Behind them, the armored aliens cursed in their own language. Then, a loud boom. Lucas turned to see the largest of the aliens punch through the metal barrier Luna had just created. Sparks flew as the creature stepped forward, its visor glowing an eerie red. It pointed at Luna. Surrender. Lucas gritted his teeth. Not happening. The alien tilted its head, then die. Lucas barely had time to react before the alien raised its weapon. But Luna moved. 1 second she was beside him. The next she was in front of him, both hands raised. The alien fired. The energy bolt never reached them. It stopped, frozen in midair, just inches from Luna's outstretched palm. The glowing energy twisted, then suddenly reversed direction. The shot flew back at the alien, striking it square in the chest. The impact sent the armored figure flying backward, crashing through a pile of wreckage. Silence. Lucas stared at Luna, breathless. You just... Luna swayed on her feet. I can't keep this up. Lucas snapped back to reality. He grabbed her arm, supporting her weight. Then let's get the hell out of here. She didn't argue. They ran. Lucas's mind was racing. Luna wasn't just special. She was something else entirely. She had just taken an alien's energy weapon and sent the blast right back at them. And now, whoever these guys were, they were really going to want her back. He needed a plan. Fast. But first, they had to survive the night. Luna's true power. Lucas's lungs burned as he dragged Luna through the winding paths of the junkyard. The air was thick with smoke and dust from the wreckage, and his mind was still trying to process what had just happened. Luna had just stopped a plasma shot in midair. Not just stopped, it had reversed and fired back at the attacker. That wasn't normal, and judging by the way her body trembled against his, it had cost her. Luna, he said between gasps, you still with me? She barely managed a nod, her breath shallow. Lucas glanced over his shoulder. The alien hunters weren't far behind. He could hear the crunch of their heavy boots, the whir of scanning devices, the faint hum of energy weapons charging. They were regrouping. He needed to think. Fast. The junkyard was his home, his turf. He knew every tunnel, every hiding spot. But against an enemy with advanced tech, that might not be enough. And then there was Luna. She was more than just some lost alien girl. He had seen the way she had felt the junk around them, how the metal had responded to her presence, bending and shifting like it was alive. And then there was what she had said. They made me. Lucas's grip tightened on her wrist as he ducked behind a pile of rusted vehicles. Luna, he whispered, I need answers. Right now. She looked at him, her glowing blue eyes dimmer than before. Not now. Yes, now. He exhaled, trying to steady his pulse. You knew they were coming. You said they'd kill me because I helped you. Who are they? And what the hell are you? Luna hesitated, as if the words were stuck in her throat. Then softly, she spoke. I was created to be a weapon. Lucas's stomach twisted. What? She shivered. I wasn't born. I was built. Designed. Engineered. I wasn't supposed to escape. Lucas had seen a lot of crazy things in his life, but this was something else. A weapon. he repeated, trying to wrap his head around it. Like a soldier. Luna's expression darkened. No. Worse. Lucas swallowed. He didn't like where this was going. They experimented on me, she continued, voice barely above a whisper. I was supposed to be their perfect creation, an entity that could manipulate matter, absorb energy, control technology. But something went wrong. She looked down at her shaking hands. I wasn't controllable. Lucas exhaled. So they tried to kill you. She nodded. They locked me inside that ship and sent it to be destroyed. But someone sabotaged the mission. They put me in stasis instead of killing me. I don't know who. I don't remember anything before I woke up. Lucas ran a hand through his hair. This was insane. The girl sitting in front of him wasn't just important. She was a literal living superweapon, a failed experiment that her creators wanted to erase. And now he was caught in the middle of it. Okay, he said, let's say I believe all that. What's the plan? Because those guys back there don't seem like the give up and go home type. Luna exhaled. I don't know. Lucas cursed under his breath. Great, just great. A sudden metallic clang echoed through the junkyard. The aliens were moving closer. Lucas tightened his grip on Luna's arm. Then we need to make a plan. She looked up at him, and for the first time, he saw something besides fear in her eyes. Determination. And maybe, just maybe, a flicker of hope. Lucas scanned their surroundings. They were near the scrapyard's central pit, a massive drop-off where the oldest, most useless junk was tossed. An idea formed in his mind. A risky, stupid idea. Can you still do that thing? He asked. The thing where you move stuff. Luna hesitated. I had him know. It takes energy. And I'm running on empty. Yeah, I figured. Lucas smirked. But I've got an idea. And I think you're gonna like it. Luna's expression turned wary. Why do I feel like I won't? Because it's dangerous as hell. Before she could argue, Lucas grabbed her hand and sprinted toward the pit. Behind them, the aliens spotted movement. There, target located. Gunfire erupted. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air, striking the metal around them. Lucas ducked, barely avoiding a shot that melted through a rusted-out engine. Lucas, Luna cried. Trust me, he shouted. They'd reached the edge of the pit. It was a sheer drop into a tangled mess of broken ships, crushed machines, and twisted metal beams. Luna skidded to a stop, eyes wide. You want to jump? Lucas grinned. No, I want them to jump. And then, he pushed her. Not hard, just enough to make her fall backward into the pit. She screamed as she plummeted. Lucas turned just as the aliens rounded the corner, weapons raised. He grinned. Catch me if you can. And then he jumped. The wind howled past his ears as he fell. The scrapyard pit was deep, too deep. He barely had time to regret his decision before. Boom. The junk beneath him moved. Lucas didn't crash into a pile of twisted wreckage. Instead, the metal shifted, rising up like unseen hands had caught him. He landed on a floating platform of junk, just as Luna, hovering in midair, her eyes burning with raw energy, lifted her hands. The entire scrapyard responded. Metal swirled around them like a living storm. Above, the aliens skidded to a stop at the pit's edge, staring in shock. Luna's voice echoed through the scrapyard. You will not take me. The metal roared to life. Junk shifted, bent, fused. Massive walls of steel erupted from the ground, blocking the pit's entrance. The old engines and broken ships began to move, their dead circuits sparking to life. Lucas's jaw dropped. Okay, that's insane. Luna floated above him, her hands glowing, her silver hair whipping in the wind. For a moment, she didn't look like a scared girl. She looked like a goddess. The aliens hesitated. Then their leader stepped forward, his red visor flashing. She is unstable. She is learning, another corrected. Lucas smirked. And you're learning the hard way. The ground shook. The junk rose higher, forming a massive barrier between them and the aliens. Then, with a final blinding flash, the scrapyard swallowed them whole. When the dust settled, the aliens were gone. Lucas, still catching his breath, looked up at Luna. She was swaying, her strength nearly gone. But she was smiling. And for the first time since this nightmare started, Lucas realized something. Maybe Luna wasn't just a weapon. Maybe she was something even more dangerous. Maybe, just maybe, she was free. A deadly showdown. The scrapyard was silent. Smoke curled from twisted heaps of metal, and the ground trembled as the last echoes of Luna's power faded into the air. The entire battlefield, the junk, the rusted-out ships, the discarded tech, had moved at her command. And the alien hunters, gone, buried beneath tons of wreckage. Lucas sat on a chunk of broken ship, catching his breath. His heart was still hammering against his ribs. He looked up at Luna, who was hovering slightly above the ground, her silver hair floating as if caught in an invisible current. The eerie glow in her eyes slowly dimmed. Then, her knees buckled. Lucas shot forward, catching her before she hit the ground. "Whoa, easy," he muttered. Luna was shaking, her body completely drained. Sweat dripped from her forehead, and her breaths came in shallow gasps. I used too much," she whispered weakly. Lucas frowned. No kidding. Her body was burning up, and her skin, usually a cool shade of blue, was paler than before. He needed to get her out of here, somewhere safe. He looked around. The scrapyard was a disaster zone. Metal was still shifting in places, settling into its new shape. The massive barricades Luna had created stood tall, keeping the enemy at bay. For now, Lucas knew this wasn't over. Those aliens weren't the type to give up. And if Luna was as powerful as she seemed, they wouldn't stop coming. "We gotta move," he said. "Think you can walk?" Luna weakly shook her head. Lucas sighed. "All right. Guess I'm carrying you again." He hooked an arm under her legs and lifted her up. She was light. Too light, like she weighed almost nothing. Whatever she wasn't built like humans. Her head rested against his chest, and he could feel her trembling. "Lucas," she whispered. "Yeah, I don't want to be a weapon." Lucas tightened his grip. "You're not," he said firmly. "You're Luna, not whatever they tried to make you." She didn't respond, but he felt her relax slightly in his arms. Then, a sound. A deep metallic grinding noise. Lucas froze. Luna's eyes snapped open. The air shifted, thick with something unnatural. Lucas turned toward the scrapyard entrance, toward the massive wall of wreckage that had swallowed the alien hunters. And then, the metal moved. Not the way it had before, when Luna controlled it. This was different. Wrong. The pile of wreckage shuddered, then exploded outward. Lucas barely had time to shield Luna as a shockwave of debris blasted through the air. When the dust settled, his stomach dropped. The alien leader stood at the center of the destruction. His armor was cracked, glowing with eerie red energy. His visor flickered, and deep claw marks lined his chest plate, but he was still standing. And he wasn't alone. 3 more figures stepped forward, larger, stronger, different. Their armor wasn't just reinforced, it was pulsing with something alive. Lucas cursed under his breath. What are they?" he muttered. Luna's voice was barely audible. "Sentinels." Lucas didn't like the sound of that. The alien leader took a step forward, his voice calm but heavy with authority. "You have proven inconvenient." Lucas rolled his eyes. "Yeah, well, you tried to kill us first." The alien ignored him. His gaze was fixed on Luna. "You are evolving faster than expected, but you are still incomplete." Luna stiffened in Lucas's arms. "Surrender now, or we will force you to comply." Lucas felt her body tremble, not with fear, but with something else. Rage. Before he could stop her, she lifted her head and glared at the alien. "I am not yours." Her voice wasn't weak anymore. It carried weight, power. The air around them pulsed. The sentinels responded instantly. Their armor lit up, and a high-pitched hum filled the air. Lucas's instincts screamed at him, "Move." He barely had time to react before the first sentinel lunged. Lucas threw himself backward, barely dodging as the ground where he stood cratered from the impact. The force of the blow sent him sprawling, Luna tumbling from his arms. Luna. She landed roughly but managed to push herself up, her breath shaky. The alien leader raised a hand. Enough. The sentinels stopped, standing like statues, waiting. Luna's hands curled into fists. "I won't go back." The alien tilted his head. "You do not have a choice." Luna growled. Lucas had never seen her like this before. The junkyard around them rumbled. Lucas's heart pounded. He had seen what Luna could do when she was exhausted. But now she was angry. The sentinels must have sensed it too, because they took a defensive stance. Then, all at once, the fight exploded. Luna launched herself forward, her body blurring with speed. She struck the first sentinel before it could react. The impact sent a shockwave through the ground, and the alien was blasted backward, crashing through a pile of wreckage. Lucas barely had time to register what had happened before another sentinel came for him. "Oh, come on." Lucas dove behind a rusted-out ship just as the ground exploded beside him. He had no weapons, no fancy tech, just his wits and whatever junk was lying around. Fine. If he couldn't fight, he'd have to outsmart them. His eyes darted around the scrapyard, searching for something. Anything. Useful. There. An old, half-broken energy coil. Lucas sprinted for it, sliding across the dirt as he grabbed the device. It was ancient, but still had some juice left. He yanked the control panel open and started rewiring it on the fly. Meanwhile, Luna was tearing through the sentinels. She wasn't just fighting, she was evolving. Her movements became sharper, more precise. She was predicting their attacks, adapting mid-battle. Lucas had never seen anything like it. But then, the alien leader moved, faster than anything should be able to. He grabbed Luna midair and slammed her into the ground. The impact sent a shockwave across the scrapyard. Luna screamed. Lucas's blood went cold. The alien leader pressed a device against her neck. Enough. Sleep. Luna's body convulsed, and then she went limp. Lucas's world snapped. Without thinking, he yanked a wire from the energy coil and jammed it against the panel. The coil overloaded. A pulse of blue energy exploded outward, slamming into the sentinels. The shockwave shorted their armor, sending them crashing to the ground. The alien leader staggered, just for a second, and that second was all Lucas needed. He tackled the alien with everything he had. The two of them crashed into the dirt, rolling over rusted metal. Lucas punched, hard, but it was like hitting a steel wall. The alien grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "You are nothing." Lucas gritted his teeth. "Yeah." He smirked. "Then you just got beat by nothing." And then, behind the alien, Luna's eyes snapped open. And they were glowing. Escape and decision. Lucas gasped for air as the alien leader's grip tightened around his throat. His feet dangled off the ground, kicking uselessly as he struggled against the overwhelming strength of his captor. The alien's glowing visor pulsed as he examined Lucas with something close to contempt. "You are weak. A lesser being. A mistake." Lucas clenched his jaw, his hands grasping at the alien's wrist, but it was like trying to pry open a steel vise. His vision blurred. His lungs burned. But then, a pulse of pure energy filled the air. The alien leader stiffened. His grip faltered. Lucas felt it too, a shift in the atmosphere, an unseen force pressing against his skin. Then he heard the sound. A low, vibrating hum, growing louder, sharper, almost alive. Lucas's eyes darted past the alien. Luna was standing. No, she was floating. Her silver hair whipped around her face, crackling with streaks of electric blue light. Her skin shimmered, her veins glowing beneath the surface. Her eyes were no longer just blue. They were pure energy. The junkyard trembled beneath her, the twisted metal groaning, bending, responding. The alien leader turned just as Luna lifted a single hand. Put him down. Her voice was no longer weak. It was commanding. The alien hesitated, but only for a second. His visor flickered. You cannot control your power. You are unfinished. You are flawed. Luna's expression darkened. Then let's see how a flawed creation fights back. She vanished. Lucas barely had time to register what had happened before a shockwave blasted through the air. Luna reappeared behind the alien leader in an instant, her palms slamming into his back. The impact was devastating. The alien's armor shattered at the point of contact. He was sent flying, his massive form crashing through several piles of junk, tearing through rusted ships like they were made of paper. Lucas hit the ground, coughing violently. His throat ached, but he was alive. He rolled onto his side, watching in disbelief as Luna slowly descended to the ground, her feet barely touching the dirt. The Sentinels, still recovering from Lucas's earlier energy coil trick, began to rise. But Luna simply raised her hand. The metal around them obeyed. With a single flick of her wrist, thousands of pounds of wreckage surged forward, slamming into the Sentinels with a force that made the ground quake. They were buried instantly. Lucas gawked. That wasn't just raw power. That was control. Luna turned to face the wreckage where the alien leader had landed. Smoke and dust billowed from the destruction. Sparks flickered from the ruined scraps of metal. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then, a hand burst through the wreckage. Lucas's stomach dropped. The alien leader stood up. His armor was wrecked, his visor flickering, his body leaking dark, thick fluid that Lucas could only assume was alien blood. And yet, he still stood. Luna's fists clenched. "Why won't you just stay down?" she growled. The alien let out a ragged, static-filled laugh. "Because I was made to endure." Then something changed. The wreckage around him shifted, not from Luna's control but his. Lucas barely had time to react before metal shards flew toward them, sharp as blades. Luna countered instantly, her own energy colliding with his, stopping the attack midair. But Lucas saw it. Luna was tired. Her powers were immense, but she wasn't at full strength. She was still learning, still evolving. And the alien leader knew it. Lucas's mind raced. If Luna burned out now, they'd both be dead. He needed to act. Fast. His eyes flicked to the wreckage behind the alien. There, an old starship engine. And it still had fuel. Lucas scrambled to his feet. "Luna, keep him busy." She barely spared him a glance before launching herself forward, meeting the alien in a blinding clash of power. Lucas ran, dodging debris, weaving through the battlefield. His hands worked on instinct, ripping open the ship's old panel. Come on, come on, come on. The engine's fuel cells were still intact. If he could just ignite them. The battle raged behind him. Luna moved like lightning, striking with precision, dodging counterattacks with inhuman speed. But the alien adapted. He fought smarter. Every failed attack taught him something new. He was studying her, waiting for an opening. And Lucas could see it. Luna was slowing down. She couldn't hold out much longer. Lucas ripped a wire loose, sparks flying as he bypassed the safety system. Then he turned to Luna. "Get clear." She heard him, but too late. The alien leader seized his moment. His hand clamped around Luna's arm. His other hand struck her chest, hard, sending her crashing into the dirt. She didn't get up. Lucas's stomach turned to ice. The alien leader turned toward him. You will not leave this place alive. Lucas smirked. Yeah, watch me. Then, he slammed the wire into the exposed fuel cell. The Starship engine ignited. The explosion was instantaneous. A massive fireball erupted, engulfing the battlefield in a blinding wave of heat and force. Lucas was thrown backward, rolling across the dirt as the shockwave tore through the scrapyard. The alien leader. He was caught directly in the blast. Lucas shielded his face as debris rained down around him. His ears rang. His vision blurred. Then, silence. Lucas coughed, pushing himself up. The battlefield was unrecognizable. Smoke, flames, twisted metal, and at the center of it, nothing. The alien leader was gone. Lucas exhaled, every muscle in his body aching. Then he saw her. Luna. She was on her hands and knees, coughing, her silver hair matted with dirt. Lucas ran to her. Hey, are you okay? She blinked up at him, her eyes dim but still glowing faintly. You did it, she whispered. Lucas smirked. Damn right I did. He offered her a hand. She took it. For a long moment, they just stood there, breathing heavily, surrounded by the aftermath of the battle. Then Luna spoke. They'll send more. Lucas sighed. Yeah, probably. Luna looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. Then we fight. Lucas raised an eyebrow. We? Luna nodded. You saved me. I won't run anymore. I will protect this place. Lucas studied her for a moment. Then he grinned. All right, Moon Girl, let's build a fortress. Luna smiled back, and for the first time, she looked truly free. A new beginning. The junkyard was unrecognizable. What was once a chaotic mess of forgotten metal and discarded starships was now something else. Something alive. Lucas wiped sweat from his forehead, stepping back to admire their work. Massive walls of scrap metal, reinforced with old starship plating, rose high around the perimeter. Security turrets, built from salvaged gun mounts, were positioned at key points. Power nodes, scavenged from old reactors, hummed faintly with energy. What was once a pile of useless junk was now a fortress. And at the heart of it all, Luna. She stood atop a half-buried wreckage, surveying their progress. The soft glow in her eyes flickered as she extended a hand. The junk responded instantly. Metal plating shifted, wires snaked together, panels fused seamlessly. She wasn't just building the fortress. She was becoming part of it. Lucas let out a low whistle. You're getting scary good at that. Luna smirked, lowering her hand. I am learning. Lucas shook his head, amazed. A week ago, she could barely stand after using her abilities. Now she was lifting entire starship hulls like they weighed nothing. He leaned against a rusted-out mech suit. So, tell me the truth. Are you gonna turn into some kind of god and start controlling all metal? Luna blinked at him. Would that frighten you? Lucas shrugged. Depends. Are you still gonna let me win at poker? Luna tilted her head, confused. You have never won at poker. Lucas groaned. Okay, well, you didn't have to say it out loud. She chuckled, a sound Lucas wasn't sure he'd ever get used to. Just a few days ago, Luna had been terrified, weak, confused, running for her life. Now she stood tall, her silver hair gleaming under the twin moons, her presence commanding. She was free. And she wasn't running anymore. The warning signs. A loud beeping interrupted the moment. Lucas's eyes snapped to a small, salvaged motion sensor blinking furiously on the workbench. He exchanged a glance with Luna. Someone was coming. Lucas grabbed his rifle, a modified plasma cutter, and tapped the side of the device. The screen flickered, showing a grainy image of the desert beyond the scrapyard walls. Dust clouds kicked up in the distance. A ship. No, multiple ships. Luna stepped beside him. They have returned. Lucas's grip tightened around his rifle. Yeah, Looks like they brought friends. 3 sleek black dropships soared over the horizon, their dark silhouettes stark against the burning sky. Lucas felt a sinking weight in his gut. These weren't the same goons from before. No, this was something worse. Luna's eyes darkened. They are not here to negotiate. Lucas smirked, cracking his knuckles. Good. Neither are we. He turned toward the fortress, raising his voice. All stations online. Shields up. The scrapyard came to life. Power nodes hummed as energy coursed through the walls. Turrets locked into position. Hidden defense drones activated, hovering silently in the air, their targeting systems scanning for hostiles. Lucas sprinted toward the control station, Luna right behind him. He yanked open a communication panel, flipping through radio frequencies. If Earth's military picked up on this, they might send backup, assuming they didn't just assume it was another pirate skirmish. The dropships slowed, hovering just beyond the scrapyard walls. Their hulls shifted, revealing weaponized cannons emerging from the sides. Lucas exhaled. Yup, definitely not a social call. Luna's expression was calm, unreadable. Do you trust me? Lucas hesitated. Then he grinned. Always. The battle for the junkyard. The lead dropship fired first. A bolt of searing plasma streaked toward them. Luna raised a hand. The ground shook. Metal leaped into the air, forming a massive rotating shield just in time to absorb the blast. The plasma hit the barrier, scattering harmlessly against the redirected energy field. Lucas whooped. Hell yeah. But the enemy wasn't done. Figures descended from the dropships, landing with heavy metallic thuds. Lucas's stomach dropped. These weren't just regular foot soldiers. They were elites. 8 feet tall, clad in sleek black armor, their visors glowing red. They moved with precision, their energy weapons humming with unearthly power. Luna's fingers twitched. Lucas raised his rifle. All right, Moon Girl. Time to see if all that training paid off. Luna's response. She vanished. In the blink of an eye, she reappeared in front of the nearest elite, her fist colliding with its chest plate. The alien crashed through an entire wall, slamming into the junk with bone-crushing force. Lucas blinked. Dan. Then, all hell broke loose. The turrets opened fire, lighting up the battlefield with streams of blazing plasma. The elites charged, their movements inhumanly fast. But Luna was faster. She dodged, weaved through the chaos like a ghost, her hands crackling with pure energy. One elite raised its weapon. Luna twisted midair, dodging the attack, before extending her palm. The gun melted in the elite's hands. Lucas aimed his rifle, taking out 2-foot soldiers who were making a run for the control station. Another elite lunged at him. But before it could land a hit, a massive slab of junk metal slammed into its back, crushing it instantly. Lucas turned to see Luna, breathing heavily, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. She wasn't just fighting. She was winning. The final stand. The battlefield was pure chaos. Lucas ducked behind cover, reloading his weapon, when he noticed something off. The enemy wasn't retreating. Even though they were losing, they kept coming, fighting like they had nothing to lose. His stomach twisted. This wasn't a raid. This was a distraction. He turned to Luna. Luna, something's wrong. Too late. The sky split open. A massive warship appeared above them, shimmering into existence as its cloaking field collapsed. Lucas's blood ran cold. The mothership had arrived. Luna's hands curled into fists. The voice of the enemy boomed over the battlefield. You cannot run. You cannot hide. The experiment will be reclaimed. Luna's response was instantaneous. She lifted her arms, and the very ground trembled. The entire scrapyard fortress responded, metal shifting, twisting, forming something new. A weapon. A city of war. Lucas exhaled, gripping his rifle tighter. Well, he muttered, I always wanted to fight an entire alien army." Luna smiled. Then she rose into the air. And as the final battle began, Lucas knew one thing for sure. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning.